With no high mountains on the penultimate day of this Tour de France, you'd be forgiven for thinking that this might be something of a parade day. Well, think again. 14 teams yet to get a stage win out of this great race, and their determination to be part of a breakaway magnified the importance of this penultimate day. Factor into that 2,914 metres of altitude gain. The lumps were constant and would take bits out of many ambitions. The green jersey just about wrapped up. Polka dots likewise would fall onto the shoulders of Tadej Pogačar. All he had to do was finish the day. But a job to be finished by those teams that wanted to make this a breakaway day, and the terrain really played into their ambitions. Not the shortest distance either. 184 kilometres in total, destination Pontarlier. But those peaks, some of which had ramps within them of up to 12%, this was going to hurt. Climbs are only as big as the effort you put into taking them. Attack them and they'll feel like alpine tests. And when you looked at the parkour, you could see just how bitey it was. Christian Prudhomme waved the flag on a day that traditionally we find and fate our champions. And a champion's performance by Kasper Asgreen. He was first to take the bait, almost acting, if you will, as an encouragement for those behind. And then the rain came down. This was causing something of a moderation, perhaps, of ambition, and it took a while for us finally to get the last incarnation of a break that looked solid enough to make it all the way home. There were a few rolls of the dice, and there were some who would start clipping at the top 10 as well that found themselves up front, but not before it had finally settled, with Tim Wellens making a noise. Of course, a big engine room for him, and good for UETM Emirates to have him up the road. Mathieu Jorgensen also there for Visma Lease Bike. Likewise, Costio, and as you can see, the fracturing of the chase behind was now starting to make this all the more selective. Groups all over the place. The yellow jersey group at this point, with 120 to go, only at 24 seconds. Tadej Pogačar did not want this to be a battle for the GC on the day. Just let the break go, for goodness sake. And they were all on the radio, mustering themselves for what was still to come. So the gap to Tadej Pogačar and the other jerseys started to stretch out. Tim Wellens was on the back of this group. On the front of the yellow jersey group at this point was Mauro Schmidt, who had been up front but had taken a tumble and suddenly went in to be part of the engine room of just making sure nothing silly happened. Well, by the time they took the turn onto the most testy climb of the day, the Category 2 test of the Tézi, then Jega, who'd been harried to get out of the break by plenty of teams who didn't want him there, didn't want the threats to the top 10. Would he make it in there? And who would make it out? Big drive it was up front. Jega there and asking for a little bit of assistance. Harry Sweeney. Caden Groves proving that as a fast man he climbs incredibly well, was part of a still very optimistic group that were in the chase. But with 60 kilometres to go, the gap was opening up, of course, to the peloton. It was over 4 minutes and the kilometres were going down. Come and do some work, said Sweeney, trying to get Jega to join the fun. Jega preparing to launch himself into the top 10. Meanwhile, Sweeney decided, well, if nobody wants to help me, I'll help myself. And away up the road he went. Brilliant. Well, that was the fracturing of that coveted front group. They were all kind of looking at each other, wondering where the threat would come from. And ultimately, Frank van den Broek looked nice and handy, found himself in the company of some quicker men up front. Why? Because Caden Groves bridged over to Harry Sweeney and decided to make a big push for the line. Well, also within that group was the Spanish champion. Romero was one of those that would unfortunately take a bit of a tumble on the day. They were reconfiguring themselves out front but still had a margin, and then it was about the push on to the line. Surely it couldn't stay together as a full group. That was Romeo hitting hard. There were others as well as part of that group, I'm afraid, that found themselves on the deck. Groves, Van den Broek and Jake Stewart were up front. Now then, with a trio looking likely to carry once they'd found Harry Sweeney out there. But then this moment A crucial one, I think it's fair to say. Jake Stewart asking for help. Meanwhile, Caden Groves helped himself. 13 seconds turned to 28. Still, it seemed that Jegat might indeed have something in terms of options for the top 10. Caden Groves was looking for a stage win. He's had them before, of course, multiple times in La Vuelta. Also, on a couple of occasions in the Giro D'Italia. But he was on the hunt for a Tour de France stage. Would he get there? Well, they were forming into smaller groups behind. But really, one man was on an absolute mission. And Caden Groves was going to bring this in. The emotions started to wash over the Australian. This was absolutely huge. For a sprinter to finish solo, it's a rare thing indeed. Van den Broek in second place ahead of Pascal Inkhorn, who'd come out of the front group. Simone Velasco was up there, Romain Gregoire, Jake Stewart wondering what might have been. In the end, it was Caden that caned them. What an amazing performance by a fabulous rider. Of course, the main GC rivals came across the line. Tadej Pogačar just has to finish the job tomorrow. Caden Groves had one job today, and he did it. What a fabulous way to draw stage 20 to a close.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's so many emotions to win here. The team, we come in with so many different plans with Jasper and Mature, and in the end, I get my own opportunities, and they haven't gone the right way. But today, I mean, yeah, I had super legs, and I just suffered to the light, and in reward, we get a tour stage.
And so, the general classification sees Tadej Pogačar just has to finish in Paris, but he should maintain the margin of 4 minutes and 24 overall. We cannot wait for our grand finale. Of course, Montmartre will be very much part of proceedings. The Martyrs Mount. It's kind of felt that way this Tour de France. It's going to be a very, very special day. Unfamiliar peaks, perhaps, within the final day. Maybe knocking back some of the ambitions of the sprinters, but you know what, Caden Groves, he showed that you can never count a quick man out, especially on rough terrain. 132.3 kilometres remain of this amazing Tour de France. How will it end? Well, you're just going to have to join us to find out. A wonderful way to draw this amazing race to a close. We'll see you tomorrow in Paris.